This lesson is on understanding supply. So how does the law of supply affect the quantity supplied? If I asked you to list the names of as many bottled beverages as you can, how would you categorize them? Examples would be the type of beverage. Is it a pop? Types of water, energy or sports drink? Is it a health drink? Or is it the price? Or the type of container that it comes in? So the law of supply states that quantity supplied increases as the price of a good increases. So if a quantity supplied increases, then the company is going to, if the quantity supplied increases, that means the price of a good increases because the company wants to make, or the firm wants to make more money. They're always looking to make more profit, more revenue for their company. And the supply is the amount of goods available. So the characteristics of supply, law of supply, quantity either supplied either rises or falls depending on what's happening in the market. If it rises, then companies are going to supply more because they want to make more profits. And new companies would see that they're making money in that market, so they're going to make up a company, create a new company, so they can get some of that money. Or if the price falls, then companies are going to sell less of that because they're not going to make as much money, and since they're not going to make as money, they might spend more of their time on some other type of product or innovation or invention. And some of the companies might drop out because they're losing money and not making any at all and maybe go bankrupt. Elasticity, is it inelastic in the short run? And it's probably going to be elastic in the long run. And we'll talk about those later in slides coming up. As price increases, like I said, companies or firms are going to produce more, they're going to make more revenue, and new firms will enter the market to make that money. They see that other companies are making money, so they're going to capitalize on that by making their own product that's similar to it, if not the same thing, because they see people are buying that and they want to get some of that money and make a revenue or make a profit from the revenue. The price decreases, companies or firms are going to produce less. They'll make less money because they're not making as much. Their costs are going to be probably the same, or maybe they've increased, but they're not selling the price that they used to, so they're not making as much money. Some companies might start to make or sell another product, like I said earlier, to make that money, to help them for what they lost of the product that they were making. And some firms may drop out because they are losing money. It's costing them too much to make that product, so they might either completely close down or make a different type of product. And the goal for all firms is to make a profit is what drives suppliers' decision. Are we going to increase profits, or increase the supply, or are we going to decrease the supply? So firms are always wanting to make a profit, so that's how they decide if they're going to supply more or less of a product. In a supply schedule, now this is exactly like a demand schedule. So it's a relationship of price and quantity supplied for a specific good. Now a demand schedule was relationship of price and quantity demanded for a specific good. And what we used before was Swedish fish, so you can see the supply schedule right there. It's a table. Price of a bag of Swedish fish, $1, $2, $3, $4, and how much of that individual bags that would sell. So if they're $1, they probably sell 50. If they had $2, they'd sell 100. Now remember, in a demand schedule, the quantity went down as price increased because people aren't going to spend as much money. Now this is the opposite for supply schedule, because you got to think we're talking about a firm or a company. So if they're going to increase the price, they're going to supply more because, once again, like I said, they want to increase their revenue or make money in the long run. And then from the supply schedule, that table, you can make the supply curve, that graph. So it's quantity on the x-axis horizontal and price of the product on the vertical axis, which is the y-axis. And it goes up from to the right compared to on a demand curve, which goes down to the right. So, and also there's a market supply schedule, just like a market demand schedule. And the supply schedule, market supply schedule, is a relationship of price and quantity supplied for all firms in a particular market. So it'd be all firms that are making Swedish fish or whatever product it is. Could be a pair of shoes or cell phones or cars or pencils or clothing, whatever it is. But you can see in the supply schedule, it's just like the regular supply schedule, but the quantity is greater because this is all firms in that particular market. So instead of at $1, it was 50 in the one before this, but now it's 500, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 for each price of the bag. So it's all firms there. And same thing if you make a table, or excuse me, a graph from the table for the market supply curve. You're going to have the quantity at the bottom and the dollars, or how much it is per bag, on the vertical axis. And once again, it increases from the up to the right. So in a market demand curve, that would decrease from to the right instead of increasing like the supply curve does. So here we're going to talk about elasticity of supply instead of elasticity of demand. And this is how firms respond to changes in the price of a good. Same as demand. How do people change in the price of a good? Well, this is how firms respond, or companies respond, to the change in a price of a good. So if the elasticity value is greater than 1, it's elastic. Remember, elastic means it's changing. People change to that. It's very sensitive to price change. If it's less than 1, it is inelastic and not sensitive to any price change. So it might take longer for people to, or the firms to, adjust to that. And if it's equal to 1, then it's unitary elastic, which means that the percent change in price is equal to the percent change in quantity supplied. So time determines if the supply of a good is elastic or inelastic. In the short run, it's usually inelastic. A firm cannot easily change its output. So as an example of that would be like oranges. So if a firm has so many orange trees, they can pick probably the normal that they do every year. But if they increase the price, they can't really make any more money as much, because they can't just go out and plant some trees and have some within a week. Those trees take time to grow. Maybe the farmer had to buy the land. They had to hire some people to pick them and all that. So the change in output is not quite as fast changing as it normally would. Now that doesn't mean they didn't make any more money, because the price did increase, but they have to wait a while for those new trees to grow, or the farmers had to buy the land or new building or something like that, or equipment. Now that's not in all firms. So like if you're getting a haircut, that's easily going to be change for the output, because if they increase the price, they can usually get somebody to hire to cut hair, new employees, right away. So it's not always totally inelastic, but most of the time it is. In the long run, it's going to be inelastic. Firms are more flexible and can change supply. And this would be going back to what I kind of said about the oranges. So if they know that prices are going to increase and they're going to supply more, they can buy more trees now, more land to grow those trees on, and 5, 6 years, whatever it takes for a tree to grow, and make more oranges, then they're going to have more money, more revenue, because they'll have more oranges to sell. And also with the haircuts, then they could maybe have more companies, open up more businesses. A person could hire more employees, and they would have more revenue there. So it can change easily more in the long run than in the short run. So, all right, so this is what the lesson was for understanding supply. So it's pretty similar to understanding demand, but this has to do with supply. You talking about firms or companies and how they supply a product to people in the market instead of people demanding a certain product. And like I said, the firms, their main goal is always to make revenue, so they always want to think about increasing the price to make more money, but they have to be careful because if they make price it too high, then people might not buy it, and then they're going to not make as much money as they were hoping to. So there's kind of a place where they want to make sure that people are demanding as much as supplying, so that they're making money and people are spending the money to buy that. So make sure you go over these again and take notes and look over your section in the book again, and we'll talk about it more in class.